Welcome everyone to another episode of the Fieldhouse. I'm Blake Munroe. I'm joined this morning by Carl Padilla, Coach Tim Buchanan, Bob Shipley, and we got special guest Gerry Hamilton with us this week. So
I needed some knowledge from these guys this week.
That's right. Well, you know what, Carl? I'm going to go to you first and let you tell everyone what some storylines that you're paying attention to. I can't talk today, apparently, and also a little bit about last Friday as well.
Thanks a lot. We won't say anything about Gerry for getting Jermaine Bishop's 4th and 29 fake punt conversion last week against the Reds. But anyway, I did a little comparable here between 6A and 2A. So last week there was 12 shutouts in 6A. There was 19 in 2A. Teams scoring 80 points, 0 in 6A, 1 in 2A. Scoring 70 points, 4 teams in 6A and 5 teams in 2A. Win by 50. By the way, that's a mercy rule in 6-man. Yeah. 16 teams in 6A, 17 teams in 2A. One-score games, there was 33 in 6A and 27 in 2A. 100-plus points in the game, 2 games in 6A and 5 games in 2A. And then coming off of that, the scores of interest last week, Rockwall upset North Crowley, and that district is going to be a pain for 2 teams because there's 6 out of the 7 I think they can make the playoffs. South Lake Carroll thrashed Euless Trinity. That was a battle of top 10 teams, and Euless Trinity is no longer in there. Waxahachie probably had, we think, the biggest upset of the week, beating Duncanville 28-27. In honor of my best friend, I just called Duncanville Dunk. Willis beat the Woodlands 42-30. I have some very good friends that thought Willis wouldn't even make the playoffs this year. So that just shows you how far they've come in 4 weeks. Peyto upsetting Tompkins 55-44. Harlan beating Brennan 31-14, which is probably for the district championship. 2 teams that were 3-0 last week. Post beating Slayton 28-27 in overtime. The aforementioned Gordon 54, Thorndale 21, and the 6-man team taking Thorndale to the woodshed. Dimmitt scored the most points last week, and Morton's given up the most points the last 2 weeks, unfortunately. Dimmitt beat him 83-38. And then a great 2A game last week, different divisions. Mount Enterprise 62, Shelbyville 57. On top of that, I decided to look at 2 teams that are 4-0 that are very seldom 4-0. One being Princeton, one being Royce City. They do it different ways, but they're both 4-0. Princeton's got 3 one-score wins out of their 4. They're outscoring their opponents by 8 points a game. They play Plano this week. If they win, even Gerry would pencil them in the playoffs.
Yes.
2017 was the last time they made the playoffs. 2015 was the last time they had a winning record. And 2013 was their last 10-win season. Now you go to Royce City, which is maybe the biggest surprise in the state this year. 34 points is their closest game, which was game 1, by the way. They're outscoring their opponents by 37 points a game. They get to play Rockwall this week at home. Tough district, like I said before, 6 teams playing for 4 spots, although Tyler Legacy is probably feeling neglected in that. Their last time to make the playoffs was 2022, but remember they were 5A D2 back then. Now they're 6A. 2022 was the last time they had a winning record. In 2007 was the last time they won 10 games.
Hey, I want to go back to that, Carl. You mentioned South Lake Carroll and Euless Trinity. I think number 1 versus number 8 at the time. I know South Lake was favored to win, but 44-6. That's a very lopsided score for a top 10 matchup. Were you all surprised by that? And is there anybody that's better at the moment?
Surprised. I thought Trinity could keep the ball away from them a little bit, but evidently they could not.
Yeah, look, I kind of with South Lake, I think this is the best collection of skill maybe they've had. Multiple playmakers they've had at South Lake. Carl may disagree, but I think Riley may have his best offensive skill team that he's had at Southlake, and they're going to be able to score the ball on everybody. I think this year, I really do believe that, and this may be his best team he's had. And somebody may disagree with that, but offensive skill wise, I'm really impressed with what I see watching him on a huddle.
Carl?
Well, what impressed me last week was that they were able to hold Euless Trinity to 6 points. Usually they have an offensive line that is just 20 to 30 pounds bigger than anybody's defensive line. For Southlake Carroll to step up that way defensively, it's probably just going to make everything much tougher to beat them if you're wanting to win a state championship in 6A Division II this year.
All right, guys. Well, Carl, you mentioned six-man football off the top, and that's actually something I know we don't talk much six-man. Well, we haven't talked any six-man at all this season. But Gordon, who, obviously a powerhouse, played a little 11-man. And Carl, I'm going to let you kind of set this up for everybody because I know you have some insight on it, some personal insight, if you will.
Well, yeah, Coach Griffin Coach Yeager at Bracketville called me and said, hey, Gordon wants to play us, but they don't want to come all the way to Bracketville in week 9. And so here I am looking through everybody's schedule. Who's open week 9? Because usually it's just smaller schools. And so unless you find somebody who's open, then nobody's going to want to host because, everybody goes to the game wherever it is. So finally found Kerrville, and Coach Neal, first year there, and he was very cooperative and said, hey, here's the number. Get a hold of this lady. And, y'all can have the field. So I guess everything worked out. Coach Reed called and I'm like, hey, Coach, why are we playing 11-man? And I noticed you had Thorndale in it. And for a while they had Junction, but then they dropped them. And he's like, well, you know what? We play 6-man and we have a mercy rule and we have so few games where we get to play the whole game. And we just thought, you know what? Let's see what our players can do by playing 48 minutes. And so obviously, they did very well against Thorndale, winning by 33.
And it's worth mentioning they have 2 D1 players, and possibly a third. And Gerry, I'm going to ask you first. I mean, have you heard, number one, of a 6-man school having multiple D1 recruits at all?
I can't remember that. I mean, maybe there was, maybe 2, but not 3. I can't remember a 6-man team having 3 D1 players. Coach Shipley, Coach Buc. I mean, I can't remember a 6-man team having 3 Division I level prospects on their team.
I'm going to tell you, it's very seldom they have one.
Yes.
Division I player. I mean, there's very few teams that have one, and then you look out there and they've got 3, and they are legit players. I mean, they're right down the road from me, and they are real football players. And as you see them taking on 11-man teams and not just beating them, but beating them soundly. And that's playing 11-man's a whole lot different. I've gone to go watch a few practices now around the area of 11-man and 6-man, and just the way they have to practice because they have so few players is difficult to decide how you're going to line up an 11-man.
Bob?
Yeah, I've never heard of that. I coached a player. Well, I coached two brothers from Rule, Kyle and Cody Wilson. Cody was a smaller one. He was about 6'6", I think, and Cody was a taller one. We thought Cody may wind up being a tight end for us. He was a quarterback for his dad, Jasper Wilson, in Rule, Texas, who, of course, the family knows Art Browse really well and all that. Anyway, I coached those 2 guys at D2 at Abilene Christian, but I had a young man move into Burnett going into his senior year from Dell City, DELL, which is way out by El Paso. And so I got a phone call from central office. Hey, Coach, we got a new guy moves in, says he wants to play football. And I said, okay, well, he'll show up and the story will show up, maybe next week or whatever. And She said, well, I think I think you might going to like this one. I said, why is that? She said, because he's probably 6'4". I said, okay, send him over. He walks in, he's 6'7". 6'7", played quarterback at Dale City. And anyway, wound up being a great tight end for us. Got a scholarship, played for the Arkansas Razorbacks. I've told the story on some of the OTF shows. I can't remember which one, but he could kick off. I got him. He'd never kicked off with a straight toe. He was a straight-on kicker. I got him a straight-toed shoe, and when he kicked off, it wasn't a matter of whether it was going through the end zone. It was whether it was going through the uprights. And he was just phenomenal. And, of course, a great basketball player for Stephen McGee was our quarterback that went on to A&M. His father was our quarterback, our basketball coach. And so we had a really good basketball team that year, too, with Jordan and Stephen McGee and Mason Templeton on that team, along with some other good Burnett players. But that's my only experience with six-man players. But I cannot imagine one having potentially 3 Division I prospects.
Hey, Blake, I like your note about the exemptions the interior offensive lineman had to have to play the offensive line were numbers in the 20s. So I can't wait to see that when they play in Kerrville.
Yeah, so the center wore number 11 and the right guard wore number 25 because they didn't have enough lineman jerseys to play an 11-man game. So a very interesting note there. First time I've heard of that as well.
Hey, that's a movie in the making right there.
By the way, Coach Shipley, your story, for whatever reason, brought back memories of Carl, I don't know if you did. When Shane Leckler was punting the football in 2A at small East Bernard, he would kick the ball over the lights. He would punt the ball over the lights, and kids literally couldn't see the ball. And they couldn't track the football. I've never seen that in my life, but of course he's a Hall of Fame punter. For some reason, your story about the kickoff made me think about Shane Leckler back in the day punting a football in high school. I've never seen anything like it, and I don't think I'll ever see anything like it again.
Yeah.
Well, up next, we're going to look at some film like we do from time to time on here. And, Gerry, if you don't mind, I'm going to let you kind of set up Kohen Brown because I know you're very familiar with him. Wide receiver out of Waxahachie, committed to Texas, of course. And he just put this out a couple days ago from his first 4 games.
Yeah, so Kohen Brown is very similar frame-wise to DeAndre Moore at Texas for me. Really strong lower body kid. Yeah, I think he ran 10.69, 10.7. Last spring on the track. And these kids don't run track as a senior because they all go early. So you'll never know how fast he would be as a senior. But just a really good football player. We had a interview with him shortly after he committed. We got to get him back on OTF. It may have been the most impressive interview of any kid we've ever had on. And that's saying something. He is the kid. He's the gym rat, whatever you want to call him. And the Waxahachie staff will tell you he'll watch as much film as they'll let him watch. And he'll study the game with them as much as they'll let him study the game. And these are the guys you really look for me nowadays, being in this business a long time, is the guys that you have no doubt they're going to maximize their talent if they stay healthy enough, right? And they don't get the bad injury bug. But this guy is a tremendous football player, but he's a football junkie is what he is. So when you put a guy that's 5'11", 185, 190 pounds with 10.6, 8, 10.7, 100-meter speed, playmaking ability, strength, a lot of want to, and then you put the football junkie with that evaluation, I think this guy is going to outplay whatever ranking he has nationally. I would have probably had him underrated as a high school player if I never saw the interview with him here on Texas Football, but a real talent, guys. And Coach Buc, I don't know if you guys, anybody, Coach Shipley, if y'all seen anybody, if y'all coached anybody like him physically that kind of was in that mold, but that if y'all had a guy that just literally lived football, there's live it, there's like it, and there's live it, love it, and like it. This kid lives it. How many lives it players did y'all have, and what was the difference when you had the live it players? Is my question for y'all.
Well, I had a couple that I slept with their mother. So I think
I hope that
I can
your two
relate to that
sons.
a little bit.
Yeah. Woo.
But they really did, but not yeah, it's fun when you get those guys like that have the talent to go with it. And that young man right there is incredibly special. I don't know that I've ever coached one like that. He almost has, when he's running full speed, he almost looks effortlessly like Vince Young. I was thinking of Vince Young. And of course, yeah, I'm with you, Bobby. I mean, Jerry, the DeAndre Moore body, I could see him playing that role and fitting in the same way that we're fitting DeAndre into the scheme. But he's unbelievable. Buck, what do you think? You coached any guys like that?
Coach Buc had over 100 D1 players, I think, over the years. I think I came to the school. He was coaching that, I don't know, 20 times over the years. But how many guys that just lived it like that did you have? And what was the difference between those players?
Well, I don't know that I've ever had one that was as talented as this kid that lived it. I've had a lot that, and that's what made them great football players. But to have a kid that is as talented as this cat and be a football junkie makes you think if he stays healthy, he's going to play football for a long time, because that's what it takes. I mean, when you get to the next level, you can't just be a good player. You can't just be talented. Something has to set you apart from the other kids, whether it be you're extremely smart, you're extremely fast, big, whatever, big and fast. But to be a student of the game and be as talented as this guy, that's pretty impressive. I just can't get past. I've heard of head coaches hiring other coaches to get football players, but sleeping with moms, that's a different thing. I've never actually heard that one before. But when you go back to Cohen, I mean, when you watch this video, you think, okay, he's playing against some guys that aren't very fast or aren't very good, but he's running past the kids at Duncanville.
Yes.
Like they're junior high players. This kid I understand why Waxahachie is as good as they are. I think this is definitely the best team Waxahachie has had since their 92 state championship team. And that team was extremely talented. They had several off that team go play in the NFL. But that guy, and he's not on there by himself. There's some guys running around him, but he is special.
Coach, your point is spot on. We talked about this on Coffee and Football when we played his clips Tuesday, I think it was, Blake.
Yep.
There is not a slow player in that district chasing anybody with a football. And the fact that you're running away from those guys and you're beating angles in the District of Doom, you have football speed too.
And Carl, I'm going to let you close this out on this topic. Your thoughts on Brown or even the district that he's in?
Well, obviously the district he's in is loaded with talent. What I really liked about the young man is I tell the young coaches all the time, there's a lot of players, skill players, they have video game vision. And this kid has peripheral vision, and he's got the speed and the mind to make it happen. He caught a slant on one play, and there was two guys on the defense that could have tackled him, but he split them perfectly and went for a touchdown. The other thing I like about him, his balance is incredible. You get a hand on him, he's not going down. You bump him, he's not going down. So this kid's got great balance. He's got great vision, and he's got a ton of speed. So, yes, like Coach Buc said, expect him to be playing on Sundays in 4 or 5 years.
Great point, Carl. He's a running back after the catch. Running back vision, running back contact balance.
Well, for our last section of the day, guys, as we always do, we're going to take a look at some games that we're paying attention to this week, and we'll just start at the top. Coach Buc, I'm going to let you begin.
Well, I'm gonna pick that Stephenville-La Vega game, and that ought to be a heck of a good game. I know both those head coaches have good football teams and do a good job.
Jerry?
Yeah, so look, I hate Coach Shipley, and I may have a little bit of the same, but we've been talking about him, and it's not because we've been talking about him, but Waxahachie at DeSoto. There's not many times a team gets to beat Duncanville and DeSoto in back-to-back weeks. And that's where we're at right now after the win over Duncanville last week. And DeSoto's 2-2. Obviously, Coach Buc's talked about the Indians and how good of a team they are this year. But in that district, if you can line up and you can beat Duncanville and DeSoto, if you have the chance to beat those guys in back-to-back weeks, there's a pretty good chance what Coach is saying is true, that this is the best team in a long time over there. And that's a great opportunity in front of those kids. And the other game I was going to mention was North Forney and Forney, Carl Padilla. I want Carl to talk about that game a little bit, because that's kind of like North Forney's kind of coming up. They're on the up a little bit here. And Forney obviously has JV and Osborne going to Notre Dame. But that's a really hidden gem game, kind of in the same town with a little rivalry feel growing between Forney and North Forney.
And Carl, I'll just go ahead and jump over to you and let you tell your game, and then also talk about what Gerry was talking about with Forney and North Forney.
Well, I'll be at Stephenville La Vega on Friday, so that should be fun. The new Art Briles Stadium. I'm looking forward to seeing that and comparing it, I guess, to the new LaPorte Bulldog Stadium in LaPorte. I'm going with Chisholm Trail and Arlington Heights. Very seldom that either one of those teams wins district. I think the winner of that game will win district. And so, we'll see what happens. North Forney and Forney, if it's at North Forney, be the first time that Forney ever plays on that field.
Yeah.
So it'll be a different feeling for both teams, because they've always played at Forney High School. And so we'll just see where that goes, but it should be a heck of a game. It may also be an elimination game in the end. So that makes that even doubly important.
And then Bob?
Well, my dad was a Forney Jackrabbit back in the day.
Wow.
Before he went on to SMU and played with Doak Walker and Kyle Rote. But anyway, their junior high team used to be called the Cottontails. I always thought, Dad, how could you be a Cottontail? Anyway, I grew up in a smaller town, loved coaching in smaller one-school towns. And in fact, the biggest district I ever worked for was Coppell, and they were a one-school town. But it's kind of interesting to see the schedule that the Wall Hawks have this year. Wall, if you've ever been through Wall, you just got to kind of look over as you're heading towards San Angelo, and there's just some cotton fields, and you'll see a football stadium and a few houses. But Wall beat Brownwood pretty handily. And this week they're taking on Sweetwater Mustangs. Little Wall. And Sweetwater's a little down. I wouldn't be surprised to see Wall win that game too. But there's a lot of good teams and a lot of good games down there where you are, Carl. There's Clemens and Steele, Piper and Smithson Valley, Alamo Heights and Bernie. There's a lot of good ones down there. But I'm going with Wink, who is 3-1, versus the 4-0 Coahoma Bulldogs. Former player of mine, a former Yellowhammer from Rotan, Chad Tuttle, whose father, Gene Tuttle, was a coach at Burleson and a lot of places for a long time before he retired. But Coahoma, 4-0. It's been a while since they've had. You remember the Tyndall brothers, Buck?
Yeah.
The Tyndall brothers at Abilene Christian. Well, they're from Coahoma, and anyway, so good luck to Coach Tuttle and the Bulldogs tonight as they take on Wink.
Hey, by the way, Carl Padilla led me into one. I got to talk. Look, I went to Friendswood High School. They're playing at LaPorte, and I'm just here to tell you, LaPorte, the stadium they built is truly, I think, unbelievable. Carl, I think you've been there now. I thought that stadium is so well done. They have the best basketball arena that people don't talk about, all that refinery money down there. But that football stadium was really well engineered. I'm a big fan of the look of that stadium when you drive up to LaPorte, and before you even get into it. I think they did an amazing job with that stadium. And if you're a high school basketball guy listening to this show, go watch when Friendswood plays at LaPorte this year. in basketball or something, but their basketball arena is tremendous, as good as anybody in the state too. It's just not talked about because they're not a power in basketball.
Hey, Blake, one other thing I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
I think the AP poll had like 4 teams in the top 11 lose last week. The first week, they had 5 of the top 10 lose, and then Duncanville was open. That just shows you that there are more and more schools that can play at a higher level. And especially if DeSoto beats Waxahachie this week, that's a 3-prong in that district. You know, who's going to win, who's going to be first, who's going to be third. Of course, Waxahachie and Duncanville can meet later on in the year in the regional final. But that just shows you that sometimes, you know, rankings, especially in high school, it's follow the leader every year. You got 7, 8 teams in the top 10, and they're always going to be in the top 10. This year, it seems to be a little different, at least in 6A.
I got to ask Coach Buc a question because I haven't been on the show. This is our first time this year. Alito 4-0. Where do you see this Alito team at right now? Because you coach the great ones.
Well, it's one of the best defensive teams they've had. I mean, they are really, really good on defense. They've got a lot of kids, like we talked about earlier, that are just students of the game. And, you know, they're talented. They're really talented in the back end. The defensive front is, you know, made up of kids who will go play Division II and Division III football, most likely. But they are might be the most physical defensive football team I've seen come out of Alito. Offensively, of course, they've got the Jermichael Finley's son at wide receiver, but people have done a pretty good job of kind of the good teams. Geyer and Lancaster both did a good job of kind of shutting down the offense, but Alito's been so good on defense that they're going to have – it's a good team. If the offense ever gets rolling, it could be one of the better Alito teams that in the last 30 years.
Ooh, that's saying something
If
right
the
there.
offense can get rolling.
Man, good stuff.
Hey, and by the way, I'll mention this too because, Blake, you know I've been talking about this for a while. The up-and-coming school in the Houston area. And this is a huge game tonight in the state of Texas, Carl. Iowa Colony is the kind of the spillover school from Fort Bend and Manville, right in that area. They are, when I went through there a couple of years ago, they had so much young talent in that program. And they're playing Richmond Randall. Obviously, everybody knows who Richmond Randall is after last year. Tonight at 7 p.m. That's a huge Thursday night game in this state because Iowa Colony, I'm just here to tell you guys, they have a ton of talent and they have a lot of speed on that team. And it's a school that people aren't really familiar with around the state yet, but I think people are going to start getting familiar with them this year. But huge Thursday night game against Richmond Randall.
It would be great if the games like last year where it went to overtime and Randall prevailed. But, you know, we'll see what happens tonight. But I expect them to play at least twice this year. So,
yeah, exactly.
All right, y'all. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of The Field House. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And, of course, we'll be back same time, same place next week. So for Carl Padilla, Bob Shipley, Gerry Hamilton, and Coach Buc, I'm Blake Munroe, and we'll see you then.